Hey guys, this is Allison from Allykatkreations. How are you? It's 2:15 a.m. Can't sleep. So I'm going to introduce a new book today. Why? Because I think it's really ridiculously important. The Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky. I quote a hell of a lot of that when we are reading The Keys to the Universe and The Key of Destiny. Very intrigued by all that is quoted from her. And I found the PDFs that I could do and read without any problems. So that's what I'm going to do today. I did a lot of stuff today. Mass chaos is everywhere around me. I can't stand it. So before I begin, please hit that like button. Not only does it help me, it helps spread the knowledge. It's very important that we take a look at all books objectively and understand that there was a lot of things that were hidden from us. And if they tell us, they meaning society that's been indoctrinating everybody for a millennium and longer, that tells us that certain things are evil and bad and pin people up against each other because, oh, that's esoteric and that is occultish and that is from the Masons and that's from this group. You're never going to be able to pluck the truth out of it if you don't read it. Do I agree with every book that I read? I don't. Do I read books that I'm not a fan of? I do. Why? Because it's important to read it. It might crack somebody open. It might give somebody an epiphany. It might connect a dot for somebody. I think it's very important that me and all of you explore these books because there's nuggets of amazing stuff in them that you could take away from, no matter what your paradigm is. So I look at my analytics. I see a lot of people going through. I don't see the likes. Doesn't hurt you to like a video. It helps me. I'm not getting much help from anybody or anything right now. And that's okay. That's just the way the universe has designed it. Well, I designed my experience to be this way. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. So I have to come to accept that. And there are very amazing people who watch me and who spread the word. So please make sure you're also sharing on social media. There's nothing that can harm you. I'm on Gab, MeWe, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Truth Social, and there's a couple of other platforms I used to be on that they're not active anymore. Help. Sharing is helping and it's free. And it's caring and spreading the word out. I'm also on Telegram. I have my own Telegram channels. Not with me. You see me all nice and pretty with my hair all nice and curly, and my makeup is not that dark. It's actually very light. Join that channel. I throw a lot of stuff on there. and subscribe to my channel. It's being suppressed, but I don't give a shit. I'm not monetized and I'm not making anything off of it. I'm spreading knowledge and that's my job. So if you have it within you to help me, my information is down below. If you have ever gotten an epiphany, a dot connected, a new book that you really want to explore for yourself, which I do encourage all of you to read the books that I promote. It might not be the same editor or the content's the same. Read the books. Some of them are large undertakings, but it's okay. Read it at your own speed and your own time, but you're going to get a different perception and perspective from it when you read it yourself. This is about spreading the knowledge. It's about plucking the truth out of everything and trying to make sense out of where everything went wrong in our paradigm. They've been telling us all along, oh, stay away from those things. Don't believe in that. Don't do this. Don't blah, blah, blah. Well, then how are you going to know from other things if you don't explore? That's all I'm doing. So the Secret Doctrine. The introduction is ridiculously long. And there's some relevant stuff in there, but I want to get to the meat and the bones of what this book is. We're going to start with the Proem. Pages from a prehistoric period. An archaic manuscript, a collection of palm leaves made impermeable to water, fire, and air by some specific unknown process is before the writer's eye. On the first page is an immaculate white disc within a dull black ground. On the following page, the same disc, but with a central point. The first, the student knows to represent cosmos, and that's cosmos with a K, in eternity, before the reawakening of still slumbering energy, the emanation of the world in latter systems, the point in the hereto immaculate disc, space and eternity in Paralaya denotes the dawn of differentiation. It is the point in the mundane egg. That was in the case of the universe also. The germ within the latter, which will become the universe, the all, the boundless periodical cosmos. This germ being latent and active periodically and by turns. The one circle is divine unity from which all proceeds, whether all returns. Its circumference, a forcibly limited symbol. In view of the limitation of the human mind, indicates the abstract, ever incognizable presence and its plane, the universal soul, although the two are one. Only the face of the disc, being white, and the ground all around black, shows clearly that its plane is the only knowledge, dim and hazy, though it still is, that is attainable by man. It is on the plane that the manvarotic manifestations begin, for it is in this soul that slumbers during the pralaya, the divine thought. FYI, a lot of Indian Buddhism phrases are here, Brahmin, and I probably am butchering them, and I do apologize, and it's not out of disrespect. I tried listening to other people try to pronounce these things. I can't project it, so please, as all my other videos, please bear with me. wherein the lies that concealed the plan of every future cosmogony and theogony. It is the one life, eternal, invisible, yet omnipresent, without beginning or end, yet periodical in its regular manifestations, between which periods reigns the dark mystery of non-being, unconscious, yet absolute consciousness, unrealizable, yet the one self-existing reality, truly a chaos to the sense, a cosmos to the reason. Its one absolute attribute, which itself, eternal, ceaseless motion, is called in a Stoic parlance, the great breath, which is the perpetual motion of the universe, in the sense of limitless, ever-present space, that which is motionless cannot be divine. But then there is nothing in fact and reality absolutely motionless within the universal soul. Almost 5 centuries BC, Leucippus, the instructor of Democritus, maintained that space was filled eternally with atoms, actuated by a ceaseless motion, the latter generating in due course of time, when those atoms aggregated, rotary motion through mutual collision, producing lateral movements. Epicurus and Lecturus taught the same, only adding to the lateral motion of the atoms the idea of affinity and occult teaching. From the beginning of man's inheritance, from the first appearance of the architects of the globe he lives in, the unrevealed deity was recognized and considered under its only philosophical aspect, universal motion, the thrill of the creative breath in nature. Occultism sums up the one existence. Thus, quote, deity is an arcane living or moving fire, and the eternal witness to the unseen presence are light, heat, moisture, end quote. This trinity included and being the cause of every phenomenon in nature. Intracosmic motion is eternal and ceaseless cosmic motion. The visible, or that which is subject to perception, is finite and periodical. As an eternal abstraction, it is the ever-present as a manifestation. It is finite both in the coming direction and the opposite, the two being the alpha and omega of successive reconstructions. Cosmos, the noumenon, has not to do with the casual relations of the phenomenal world. It is only with reference to the intracosmic soul, the idea cosmos, in the innumerable divine thought, that we may say, quote, it never had a beginning, nor will it have an end, end quote. With regard to its body, a cosmic organization, though it cannot be said that it had a first, or will it have a last construction, yet at each new manvarata, its organization may be regarded as the first and the last of the kind, as it evolutes every time on a higher plane. A few years ago, it was only stated that, okay, this is tiny. Quote, the Stoic doctrine teaches, like Buddhism and Brahmanism, and even the Kabbalah, that the one infinite and unknown essence exists from all eternity, and in regular and harmonious succession is either passive or active. In the poetical phraseology of Manu, these conditions are called the days and the nights of Brahma. The later is either awake or asleep. The Subhavakas or philosophers of the old school of Buddhism, which still exists in Nepal, speculate only upon the active condition of this essence, which they call sabhavata, and deem it foolish to theorize upon the abstract and unknowable power in its passive condition. Hence, they are called atheists by both Christian theologians and modern scientists, for neither of the two are able to understand the profound logic of their philosophy. The former will allow of no other God than the personified secondary powers which have worked out the visible universe and which have become with them the anthropomorphic God of the Christians, the male Jehovah, warring amid thunder and lightning. In its turn, rationalistic science greets the Buddhists and the Sabhavaktas as the positivists of the archaic ages. If we take a one-sided view of the philosophy of the latter, our materialists may be right in their own way. The Buddhists maintain that there is no creator, but an infinitude of creative powers, which collectively form the one eternal substance, the essence of which is inscrutable, hence not a subject for speculation for any true philosopher. Socrates invariably refused to argue upon the mystery of universal being, yet no one would ever have thought of changing him with atheism, except those who were bent upon his destruction. Upon inaugurating an active period, says the Secret Doctrine, an expansion of this divine essence from without inwardly and from within outwardly occurs in obedience to external and immutable law, and the phenomenal or visible universe is the ultimate result of the long chain of cosmical forces thus progressively set in motion. In like manner, when the passive condition is resumed, a contraction of the divine essence takes place, and the previous work of creation is gradually and progressively undone. The visible universe becomes disintegrated, its material dispersed, and darkness, solitary and alone, broods once more over the face of the deep. To use a metaphor from the secret books, which will convey the idea still more clearly, in an outbreathing of the unknown essence produces the world. An inhalation causes it to disappear. This process has been going on from all eternity, and our present universe is but one of the infinite series which had no beginning and will have no end. This passage will be explained as far as it is possible in the present work, though as it now stands, it contains nothing new to the Orientalists. Its esoteric interpretation may contain a good deal with which has hitherto remained entirely unknown to the Western student. Before I read this next part, there's a lot of symbols, and I came into this issue when I read the laws, the keys to the universe. I drew some of them out in hopes this will help visually. So if I point to a symbol, that's what I'm talking about. The first symbol being a plain disc. The second one in the archaic symbol showing the circle and the dot in the middle. A disc with a point in it. The first differentiation in the periodical manifestations of the ever-eternal nature, sexless and infinite. Ad iditi, in that Rig Veda, the point in the disc or a potential space within abstract space. In its third stage, the point is transformed into a diameter. Thus, It now symbolizes a divine immaculate mother nature within all embracing absolute infinitude. The diameter line is crossed by a vertical one. It becomes the mundane cross. Humanity has reached its third root race. It is the sign for the origin of human life to begin. When the circumference disappears and leaves only the cross, it is a sign that the fall of man into matter is accomplished, and the fourth race begins. The cross within a circle symbolizes pure pantheism. When the cross was left uninscribed, it became phallic. It had the same and yet other meanings as Tao inscribed within a circle, or as Thor's hammer, the Jaina cross, so called, or simply swastika within a circle, which I'm not going to draw because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. This is, without all the other things, Thor's hammer. By the third symbol, the circle divided in two by the horizontal line of the diameter, the first manifestation of creative, still passive because feminine, nature was meant. The first shadowy perception of man connected with procreation is feminine, because man knows his mother more than his father. Hence, female deities were more sacred than the male. Nature is therefore feminine and to a degree objective and tangible. And the spirit principle, which is fructifies, it is concealed. By adding to the circle with the horizontal line in it, a perpendicular line, that Tao was formed, the T capitalized, the oldest form of the letter. It was the glyph of the third root race to the day of its symbolic fall. When the separation of sexes by natural evolution took place, when the figure became like that, the circle or sexless life modified or separated a double glyph or symbol. With the races of our fifth race, it became in symbology the sark, the seker, and in Hebrew, nakabava, of the first formed races. Then it changed into the Egyptian. Oh man, hang on, guys. I'm going to draw this out now. Okay, you'll see why I had a pause. Then it changed to the Egyptian emblem of life, which is that. And still later into the sign of Venus, which is that. And then comes the swastika, or Thor's hammer, or the Hermetic cross, now entirely separated from its circle, thus becoming purely phallic. The esoteric symbol of Kali Yuga is the five-pointed star reversed. Thus, I know the sign of human sorcery with its 2 points, horns, turned heavenward, a position every occultist will recognize as one of the left hand and used in ceremonial magic. Interesting, to say the least. It is hoped that during the pursuit of this work, the erroneous ideas of the public in general with regard to pantheism will be modified. It is wrong and unjust to regard the Buddhists and Advaita occultists as atheists. If not all of them philosophers, they are, at any rate, all logicians, like logical people, their objections and arguments being based on strict reasoning. Indeed, if the Parabrahman of the Hindus may be taken as a representative of the hidden and nameless deities of other nations, this absolute principle will be found to be the prototype from which all the others were copied. Parabrahman is not God, because it is not a God. It is that which is supreme and not supreme. Parabara explains Mandukya Upanishad. It is supreme as cause, not supreme as effect. Parabrahman is simply as a secondless reality, the all-inclusive cosmon, or rather the infinite cosmic space in the largest spiritual sense, of course. Brahma, neuter, being the unchanging, pure, free, undecaying supreme root, the one and true essence, Paramarthika, and the absolute shit. Oh dear, I'm not saying shit. In Shatyana, intelligent consciousness, cannot be a cognizer, for that can have no subject of cognition. Can the flame be called the essence of fire? This essence is the life and light of the universe. Divisible fire and flame are destruction, death, and evil. Fire and flame destroy the body of the Arhat. Their essence makes him immortal. The knowledge of the absolute spirit, like the engulfance of the sun, or like heat and fire, is not else than the absolute essence itself, says Sankaracharya. It is the spirit of the fire, not fire itself. Therefore, the attributes of the latter, heat or flame, are not the attributes of the spirit, but of that which that spirit is, unconscious cause. It is not above the it is not the above sentence the true keynote later Rosicrucian philosophy. Parabrahman is, in short, the collective aggregate of cosmos in its infinity and eternity, that and this to which distributive aggregates cannot be applied. In the beginning, this was the self, one only. The great Sankaracharya explains that this referred to the universe, Jagat, the sense of the words, in the beginning, meaning before the reproduction of the phenomenal universe. Therefore, when the pantheists echo the Upanishads, which state, as in the Secret Doctrine, that this cannot create, they do not deny a creator, or rather a collective aggregate of creators, but only refuse very logically to attribute creation, and especially formation, something finite, to the infinite principle. With them, Parabrahman is passive because of an absolute cause, the unconditional mukta. It is only limited omniscience and omnipresence that all refuse to the latter, because these are still attributes as reflected in man's perceptions, and because Parabrahman, being the supreme all, the ever invisible spirit and soul of nature, changeless and eternal, can have no attributes, absoluteness, very naturally precluding any idea of the finite or condition from being connected with it. And if the Vedanta postulates attributes as belonging simply to the emanation, calling it in Swara plus Maya, in Avidya, agnosticism, and nescience, rather than ignorance. It is difficult to find any atheism in this conception, since there can be neither two infinites nor two absolutes in the universe supposed to be boundless. This self-existence can hardly be conceived of a creating personality in the sense and perceptions of finite beings, that is non-being in the sense that it is the one beingness. For in this all lies concealed its co-eternal and co-vol emanation or inherent radiation, which upon becoming periodically Brahma, the male-female potency, becomes or expands itself into the manifested universe. Narayana, moving on the abstract waters of space, is transformed into the waters of concrete substance moved by him, who now becomes the manifested word or logos. The Orthodox Brahmins, those who rise the most against the pantheisms and Advartis, calling them atheists, are forced, if Menu has any authority in this matter, to accept the death of Brahma, the creator, at the expression of every age of this creative deity, 100 divine years, a period which in our years requires 15 figures to express it. Yet no philosopher among them will view this death in any other sense than as a temporary disappearance from the manifested plane of existence, or as a periodical test. Interesting. The occultists are therefore at one with the Advaita Vedanta philosophers as to the above tenet. They show the impossibility of accepting on philosophical grounds the idea of the absolute all creating or even evolving the golden egg, into which it is said to enter in order to transform itself into Brahma, the creator who expands himself later into gods and all the visible universe. They say that the absolute unity cannot pass to infinity, for infinity presupposes the limitless extension of something and the duration of that something, and the one all is like space, which is its only mental and physical representation on this earth, or our plane of existence, neither an object or nor a subject to perception. If one could suppose the eternal infinite all, the omnipresent unity, instead of being in eternity, becoming through periodical manifestation a manifold universe, or a multiple personality, that unity would cease to be one. Locke's idea that pure space is capable of neither resistance nor motion is incorrect. Space is neither a limitless void nor a conditioned fullness, but both. Being on the plane of absolute abstraction, the ever incognizable deity, which is void only to finite minds, and on that of a mayavak perception, the plenum, the absolute container of all that is, whether manifested or unmanifested, it is therefore the absolute all. There is no difference between the Christian apostles, in him we live and move and have our being, and the Hindu rishis, the universe lives in, proceeds from, and will return to Brahma. For Brahma, neuter, the unmanifested, is the universe in absecondito, and Brahma, the manifested, is the logos, made male, female, in the symbolical orthodox dogmas. The God of the apostle initiate and of the rishi, being both the unseen and the visible space. Space is called in the esoteric symbolism the seven-skinned eternal mother father. It is composed from its undifferentiated to its differentiated surface of 7 layers. What is that which was, is, and will be, whether there is a universe or not, whether there be gods or none? Ask the esoteric Sinzar Catechism. The answer made is space. It is not the one unknown, ever-present God in nature or nature in absecundato. I don't know how to say that word, guys. That is rejected, but the God of human dogma and his humanized word. In his infinite conceit and inherent pride and vanity, man shaped it himself with his sacrilegious hand out of the material he found in his own small brain fabric, and force it upon mankind as a direct revelation from the one unrevealed space. The occultist accepts revelation as coming from divine yet still finite beings, the manifested lives, never from the unmanifestable one life, from those entities called primordial man, Dhyani Buddhas and Dhyan Kohans, the Rishi Parajapi. Guys, I'm so sorry. I am butchering every one of those. Of the Hindus, the Elohim, or the sons of God, the planetary spirits of all nations who have become gods for men. He also regards the Ad Sakti, the direct emanation of Mula Parakti, and the eternal root of that, and the female aspect of the creative cause, Brahma, in her Akashic form of the universal soul, as philosophically a Maya and cause of human Maya. But this view does not prevent him from believing in its existence so long as it lasts, to wit, for the one Mahabharata, nor from applying Akasa, the radiation of Mala Parakti, to practice purposes connected to the world soul, is with all natural phenomena known or unknown science. The oldest religions of the world exoterically, for the Stoic root or foundation is one, are the Indian, the Mazdian, and the Egyptian. Then comes the Chaldean. The outcome of these entirely lost to the world now, except in its disfigured Sambanism, as at present rendered by the archaeologists. Then, passing over a number of religions that will be mentioned later, comes the Jewish, esoterically as the Kabbalah, following the line of Babylonian magism, exoterically as in Genesis, and the Pentateuch, I don't know what that is, a collection of our allegorical legends read by the light of the Zohar. The initial 4 chapters of Genesis are the fragment of highly philosophical page in the world's cosmogony. Left in their symbolic disguise, they are a nursery tale, an ugly thorn in the side of science and logic, an evident effect of karma. To have let them serve as a prologue to Christianity was a cruel revenge on the part of the rabbi, who knew better what their Pentateuch meant. It was a silent protest against the spoliation, and the Jews have certainly now the better of their traditional persecutors. The above named as exoteric creeds will be explained in the light of the universal doctrine as we proceed with it. The occult catechism contains the following questions and answers. What is it that ever is? Space the eternal, Anupadaka. What is it that ever was? The germ is the root. What is it that ever coming and going? The great breath. Then there are three eternals. No, the three are one. That which ever is one. That which ever was is one. That which is ever being and becoming is also one. And this is space. Explain, O Lano. The one is an unborn circle ring with no circumference, for it is nowhere and everywhere. The one is the boundless plane of the circle, manifesting a diameter only during the Manvaronic periods. The one is the indivisible point found nowhere, perceived everywhere during those periods. It is the vertical and the horizontal, the father and the mother, the summit and base of the father, the two extremities of the mother, reaching in reality nowhere, for the one is the ring, as also the rings that are within that ring. Light in the darkness, and darkness in light, the breath which is eternal. It proceeds from without inwardly, when it is everywhere, and from within outwardly, where it is nowhere. It explains and contracts exhilaration and inhalation. When it expands, the mother diffuses and scatters. When it contracts, the mother draws back and gathers. This produces the period of evolution and dissolution, Manvartara or Parila. The germ is invisible in fury. The root, the plane of the circle, is cool. But during evolution and Manvartara, her garment is cold and radiant. Hot breath is the father who devours the progeny of the many-faced element, heterogeneous, and leaves the single-faced ones homogeneous. Cool breath is the mother who conceives forms, brings forth and receives them back into her bosom to reform them at the dawn of the day of the Brahma or the Manvarata. For clearer understanding on the part of the general reader, it must be stated that the occult science recognizes 7 cosmical elements, 4 entirely physical, and the 5th ether, semi-material, as it would and will become visible in the air towards the end of the 4th round, to reign supreme over the others during the whole of the 5th. The remaining 2 are as yet absolutely beyond the range of human perception. These later will, however, appear as presentments during the 6th and 7th races of this round, and will become known in the 6th and 7th rounds, respectively. Well, we are about to be on the 6th round. Congratulations, all of you will finally understand ether. Tesla's form of ether. These 7 elements, with their numberless sub-elements, far more numerous than those known to science, are simply conditional modifications and aspects of the one and only element. This latter is not ether, not even akasa, but the source of these. The 5th element, now advocated quite freely by science, is not the ether hypothesized by Sir Isaac Newton, although he calls it by the name, having associated it in his mind probably with the ether, mother, father, and of antiquity. As Newton intellectually says, nature is a perpetual circulatory worker, generating fluids out of solids, fixed things out of volatile, and volatile out of fixed, subtle out of gross, and gross out of subtle. This perhaps may all things be originated from ether. The reader has to bear in mind that the stanzas given treat only of the cosmogony of our planetary system and what is visible around it after a solar parallel. The secret teachings with regard to the evolution of the universal cosmos cannot be given, since they could not be understood by the highest minds in this age, and there seem to be very few initiates, even among the greatest, who are allowed to speculate upon this subject. Moreover, the teachers say openly that not even the highest Dhyani Kohans have ever penetrated the mysteries beyond those boundaries. As separate the milliards of solar systems from the central sun, as it is called, therefore, that which is given relates only to our visible cosmos after a night of Brahma. Before the reader proceeds to the consideration of the stanzas from the book of Daizan, which form the basis of the present work, it is absolutely necessary that he should be made acquainted with the few fundamental conceptions which underlie and pervade the entire system of thought to which his attention is invited. These basic ideas are few in number, and on their clear apprehension depends the understanding of all that follows. Therefore, no apology is required for asking the reader to make himself familiar with them first, before entering on the pursuit of the work itself. The Secret Doctrine establishes three fundamental propositions. A, an omnipresent, eternal, boundless, and immutable principle on which all speculation is impossible, since it transcends the power of the human conception and could only be dwarfed by any human expression or similitude. It is beyond the range and reach of thought. In the words of Mandyuka, the unthinkable and unspeakable. To render these ideas clearer to the general reader, let him set out with the postulate that there is one absolute reality which antecedes all manifested, conditioned being, the infinite and eternal cause dimly formulated in this unconscious and unknowable of current European philosophy, is the rootless root of all that was, is, or ever shall be. It is, of course, devoid of all attributes and essentially without any relation to manifested finite being. It is beingness rather than being, in Sanskrit, sat, and is beyond all thought or speculation. This beingness is symbolized in the Secret Doctrine under two aspects. One, the one hand absolute abstract space representing bare subjectivity, the one thing which no human mind can either exclude from any conceptions or conceive of by itself. On the other, absolute abstract motion representing unconditioned consciousness. Even our Western thinkers have shown that consciousness is inconceivable to us apart from change and motion. Best symbolizes change, its essential characteristic. This later aspect of the one reality is also symbolized by the term, the great breath, a symbol sufficiently graphic to need no further elucidation. Thus, then, the first fundamental axiom of the Secret Doctrine is this metaphysical one, absolute beingness, symbolized by finite intelligence as a theological trinity. It may, however, assist the student if a few further explanations are given here. Herbert Spencer has of late so far modified his agnosticism as to assert that the nature of the first cause, which the occultist more logically derives from the causeless cause, the eternal and the unknowable, may be essential the same as that of the consciousness which wells up within us. In short, that the impersonal reality pervading the cosmos is the pure noumenon of thought. Noumenon. The advance on his part brings him very near to the Stoic and Benedictine tenet. I don't think I said that right either. Para-Brahman, the one reality, the absolute, is the field of absolute consciousness, that essence which is out of all relation to conditioned existence and of which conscious existence is conditional symbol. But once that we pass in thought from this to us, absolute negation, duality, supervenes in the contrast of spirit or consciousness and matter, subject and object. Spirit or consciousness and matter are, however, to be regarded not as independent realities, but as two facets or aspects of the absolute power of Brahman, which constitute the basis of condition being, whether subjective or objective. Considering this metaphysical triad as the root from which proceeds all manifestation, the great breath assumes the character of pre-cosmic ideation. It is the fons te orgo of force and of all individual consciousness, and supplies the guiding intelligence in the vast scheme of cosmic evolution. On the other hand, pre-cosmic root substance is that aspect of the absolute which underlies all the objective planes of nature. Just as pre-cosmic ideation is the root of all individual consciousness, so pre-cosmic substance is the substratum of matter in the various grades of differentiation. Hence, it will be apparent that the contrast of these two aspects of the absolute is essential to the existence of the manifested universe. Apart from cosmic substance, cosmic ideation could not manifest as individual consciousness, since it is only through a vehicle of matter that consciousness wells up as I am I, a physical basis being necessary to force and focus a ray of the universal mind at a certain stage of complexity. Again, apart from the cosmic ideation, cosmic substance would remain an empty abstraction and no emergence of consciousness could ensue. The manifested universe, therefore, is pervaded by duality, which is, as it were, the very essence of its existence as manifestation. But just as the opposite poles of subject and object, spirit and matter, are but aspects of one unity in which they are synthesized, so in the manifested universe there is that which links spirit to matter and subject to object. This something, at the present unknown to Western speculation, is called by the occultists Fohat. It is the bridge by which the ideas existing in the divine thought are impressed on cosmic substance as the laws of nature. Fohat is thus the dynamic energy of cosmic ideation, or regarded from the other side, it is the intelligent medium, the guiding power of all manifestation, the thought divine transmitted and made manifest through the Dayan Kohans and the architects of the visible world. Thus, spirit or cosmic ideation comes our consciousness. From conscious substance, the several vehicles in which that consciousness is individualized and obtains to self or reflective consciousness. While Fohat is various manifestations, is the mysterious link between mind and matter, the animating principle electrifying every atom into life. The following summary will afford a clearer idea to the reader. The absolute, the para-Brahman of the Vedicans, or the one reality sat, which is, as Hegel says, both absolute being and non-being. The first manifestation, the impersonal and in philosophy unmanifested logos, the precursor of the manifested. This is the first cause, the unconscious, of European pantheism. Spirit matter, life, the spirit of the universe, the Purusha and Karati, or the second logos. Cosmic ideation, Mahat, or intelligence, the universal world soul, the cosmic noumenon of matter, the basis of the intellect, The basis of intelligent operations in and of nature, also called Mahabodhi. The one reality is dual aspects in the conditioned universe. Further, the secret doctrine affirms the eternity of the universe in toto as a boundless plane, periodically the playground of numerous universes incessantly manifesting and disappearing, called the manifesting star and the sparks of eternity. The eternity of the pilgrim is like a wink of the eye of self-existence, Book of Zizan. The appearance and disappearance of worlds is like regular tidal ebb and flux and reflux. The second assertion of the secret doctrine is the absolute universality of the law of periodicity and flux and reflux, ebb and flow, which physical science has observed and recorded in all departments of nature, and alterations such as that of day and night, life and death, sleeping and waking, is a fact so common, so perfectly universal, without exception, that it is easy to comprehend that in it we see one of the absolutely fundamental laws of the universe. Moreover, the secret doctrine teaches the fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul, the latter being itself an aspect of the unknown root and the obligatory pilgrimage for every soul, a spark of the former through the cycle of incarnation or necessity, in accordance with cyclical and karmic law during the whole term. In other words, no purely spiritual Buddhi, divine soul can have an independent conscious existence before the spark which is issued from the pure essence of this universal sixth principle, or the oversoul, has passed through every elemental form of the phenomenal world of the Manvaratara, and B, required individuality first by natural impulse and then by self-induced and self-devised efforts checked by its karma, thus ascending through all the degrees of intelligence from the lowest to the highest manas, from the mineral and plant to the holiest archangel, Dayan Buddha. The pivotal doctrine of the Stoic philosophy admits no privileges or special gifts in men, save those whose won by his own ego through personal effort and merit throughout a long series of metempsychosis and reincarnations. Thus, this is why the Hindus say that the universe is Brahma and Brahma and Brahma. The Brahma is in every atom of the universe, the six principles of nature being all the outcomes, the variously differentiated aspects of the seventh and one, the only reality in the universe, whether cosmical or microcosmical, and also why the permutations, psychic, spiritual, and physical, on the plane of manifestation and form of the six, Brahma, the vehicle of Brahmo, are viewed by metaphysical interphrases as elusive and myopic. For although the root of every atom individually and every form collectively is the seventh principle or the one reality, still in its manifested phenomenal and temporal appearance it is no better than an evanescent illusion of our senses. See for clearer definition, atom, gods, monads, and atoms, and also Fania. Interesting. In its absoluteness, the one principle under its two aspects of Parabrahma and Moksha is sexless, unconditional, and eternal. Its periodical emanation or primal radiation is also one, androgynous, and phenomenally finite. When the radiation radiates in its turn, all its radiations are also androgynous to become male and female principles in their lower aspects. After Pralaya, whether the great or the minor Pralaya, the latter leaving the worlds in status quo. The first that reawakes to active life is the plastic Akasha, Father, Mother, the spirit, and the soul of ether, or the plane on the surface of the circle. Space is called the mother before the cosmic activity, and Father, Mother at the first stage of reawakening. In the Kabbalah, it is also known as Father, Mother, Son. But whereas in the Eastern doctrine, these are the seventh principle of the manifested universe, or its Atma Buddhai Manas, spirit, soul, intelligence, the triad branching off and dividing into the seven cosmical and seven human principles in the Western Kabbalah of the Christian mystics. It is the triad or trinity, and with their occultist male, female Jehovah, in this lies the whole difference between the Stoic and the Christian trinities. The mystic and the philosophers, the Eastern and Western pantheists, synthesize their progenic triad in the pure divine abstraction. The Orthodox anthropomorphize it. Oh boy. Sorry guys, there's a lot of words that I am not going to get out properly, and I do apologize. It is hellishly frustrating. Hayen, Yarg, Arba, Hari, and Sankrara, the three hypostates of the manifesting spirit of the Supreme Spirit, by the title Prithvi, the earth greets Vishnu in the first avatar, are the purely metaphysical abstract qualities of formation, preservation, and destruction, and are three divine apostates, and of that which does not perish with created things. Whereas the Orthodox Christian separates his personal creative deity into three personages of the Trinity and admits of no higher deity. The latter in occultism is the abstract triangle, with the Orthodox the perfect cube. The creative God or the aggregate gods are regarded by the Eastern philosopher as Brantidar Stara. Guys, I am so sorry. I'm not really trying to butcher any of these, and I totally am. Go read the book for yourself, because this is frustrating. And I do apologize. It's frustrating because I want to get it out properly, and I totally can't. And there is no translation or breakdown of how to project. False apprehension. So whatever that word I was just trying to pronounce, false apprehension. Something conceived of by reason of erroneous appearances as a material form, and explained as arising from the elusive conception of the egotistic, personal, and human soul, lower fifth principle. It is beautifully expressed in the new tradition of Vishnu Purana. That Brahma, in its totality, has essentially the aspect of Parvati, both evolved and unevolved, and also the aspect of spirit and the aspect of time. Spirit, twice born, is the leading aspect of the Supreme Brahma. The next is a twofold aspect, Parvati, both evolved and unevolved. And the next is twofold aspect, Parvati, both evolved and unevolved, and is the time last. Chronos is shown in the Orphic Theogony as being as the generated God or agent. At the stage of the reawakening of the universe, the sacred symbolism represented it as a perfect circle with the root point in the center. This sign was universal, therefore we find it in the Kabbalah also. The Western Kabbalah, however, now in the hands of a Christian mystic, ignores it altogether, though it is plainly shown in the Zohar. Thus, sectarians, being at the end and show as a symbol of progenic cosmos, this sign, the circle with the cross in it, calling it the union of the rose and cross, and great mystery of occult generation, from whence the name Rosicrucians, rose cross, as may be judged, however, from the most important as the best known of the Rosicrucian symbols. There is one which has never been hereto understood, even by modern mystics. It is that of the pelican, tearing open its breast to feed its 7 little ones. The real creed of the Brothers of the Rosy Cross and direct outcome from the Eastern secret doctrine, Brahma, is called Kalahansa, meaning, as explained by Western Orientalists, the eternal swan or goose. And so it is Brahma, the creator. A great mistake is thus brought under notice. It is Brahma who ought to be referred to Hansa Vahana, he who uses the swan as his vehicle, and not Brahma, the creator, who is the real Kalahansa, while Brahma is Hamza and Ahamsa, as will be explained in the commentary. Let it be understood that the terms Brahma and Parabrahman are not used here because they belong to the Stoic nomenclature, but simply because they are more familiar to the students in the West. Both are the perfect equivalents of our 1, 3, and 7 vowel terms, which stand for the one all and the one all in all. Such are the basic concepts on which secret doctrine rests. It would not be in place here to enter upon any difference or proof of the inherent resemblance, nor can I pause to show how they are in fact contained, though too often under a misleading guise, in every system of thought or philosophy worthy of the name. Once the reader has gained a clear comprehension of them all, and realize the light which they throw at every problem of life, they will need no further jurisdiction or justification in his eyes, because their truth will be to him as evident as the sun in heaven. I pass on, therefore, to the subject matter of the stanzas, as given in the volume, adding a skeleton outline of them, in hope of thereby rendering the task of the student more easy, by placing before him a few words, the general conception therein explained. Stanza 1, the history of cosmic evolution as traced in the stanzas, is, so to say, the abstract algebraic formula of the evolution. Hence, the student must not expect to find there an account of all the stages and transformations which intervene between the first beings of universal evolution and our present state. To give such an account would be an impossible, as it would be incomprehensible to men who cannot grasp the nature of the plane of existence next to that to which the moment their consciousness is limited. The stanzas, therefore, give an abstract formula which can be applied to all evolution, to that of any tiny earth, to that of the chain of planets of which the earth forms one, to the solar universe to which the chain belongs, and so on, in an ascending scale till the mind reels, is exhausted in the effort. The 7 stanzas given in the volume represent the 7 terms of the abstract formula. They refer to and describe the 7 great stages of evolutionary process, which are spoken of in the Puranas as the 7 creations and the Bible as the days of creation. The first stanza describes the state of the one all during Paraya, before the first flutter of reawakening manifestation. A moment's thought, shows that such a state can only be symbolized. To describe it is impossible, nor can it be symbolized except in negatives. For since it is the state of absoluteness per se, it can possess none of those specific attributes which serve us to describe objects in positive terms. Hence, the state can only be suggested by the negatives of all those most abstract attributes which men feel rather than conceive as the remote limits obtained by their power of conception. The stage described in stanza 2 is, to a Western mind, so nearly identical with the mentioned in the first stanza that it is expressed the idea of difference would require a treaty in itself. Hence, it must be left to the intuition and higher faculties of the reader to grasp, as far as he can, the meaning of the allegorical phases used. Indeed, it must be remembered that all these stanzas appeal to the inner faculties rather than the ordinary comprehension of the physical brain. Stanza 3 describes the reawakening of the universe to life after Alaya. It depicts the emergence of the monads from the state of absorption within the one, the earliest and highest stage in the formulation of worlds. The term monad being one which may apply equally to the vast solar system or the tiniest atom. Stanza 4 shows differentiation of the germ of the universe into the septenary hierarchy of conscious divine powers, who are the active manifestation of the one supreme energy. They are the framers, shapers, and ultimately the creators of all the manifested universe in the only sense in which the name creator is intelligible. They inform and guide it. They are the intelligent beings who adjust and control evolution, embodying in themselves those manifestations of the one law, which we know as the law of nature. Generally, they are known as the Dayan Kohans, though each of the various groups has its own designation. And in Secret Doctrine, the stages of evolution is spoken in Hindu mythology as creation as the gods. In stanza 5, the process of world formation is described. First, diffuse cosmic matter, then the fiery whirlwind, the first stage in the formation of a nebula. The nebula condenses, and after passing through the various transformations, forms a solar universe, a planetary chain, or a single planet, as is the case may be. The subsequent stages in the formation of a world are indicated in stanza 6, which brings the evolution of a world down to the fourth great period, corresponding to the period in which they are now living. Stanza 7 continues the history, tracing the descent of life down to the appearance of man, and this closes the first book of the Secret Doctrine. The development of man from its first appearance on this earth to around to the state in which we now find him will form the subject of book 2. Note, the stanzas which form the thesis of every section are given throughout their modern translated version, as it would be worse than useless to make the subject still more difficult by introducing the archaic phraseology of the original with the puzzling style and words. Extracts are given from the Chinese, Tibetan, and Sanskrit translations of the original Sanskrit commentaries and glosses of the Book of Daizan, these being now rendered for the first time in the European language. It is also unnecessary to state that the only portion of the 7 stanzas are here given. Were they published complete, would remain incomprehensible to all save the few higher occultists. Nor is there any need to assure the reader that no more than most of the profane does the writer, or rather the humble recorder, understand those forbidden passages. To facilitate the reading and to avoid too frequent reference to footnotes, it was thought best to blend together texts and glosses using the Sanskrit and Tibetan proper names whenever they cannot be avoided, in reference to giving the originals, more so as the said term and accepted synonyms, the former only being used between a master and his disciples. Thus, were one translated into English, using only substantives and technical terms, and employed in one of the Tibetan Sanzar versions, verse 1 would read as follows. Oh God. Though Ag in Zai Gu slept 7 Carlo. Okay, there's no way I can read any of that. This is what I get. I get a paw. Okay, guys, sorry, I'm gonna have to skip that all because nope, not butchering it, not disrespecting it. As this work is written for the instruction of students of occultism and not for the benefit of philologists, we may well avoid such foreign, sorry guys, my kitty, foreign terms whenever it is possible to do so. The untranslatable terms alone incomprehensible unless explained in their meanings are left, but all such terms are rendered in their Sanskrit form. Needless to remind the reader that this and these are in almost every case the late developments of later language and pertain to the fifth root race. Sanskrit is now known was not spoken in the Atlanteans, and most of the philosophical terms used in the system of the India of the most Mahabharatan period are not found in the Vedas, nor are they to be met with in the original stanzas, but only through their equivalents. The reader who is not a theosophist is once more invited to regard all which follows as fairy tale if he likes. At best, one of the yet unproven speculations of dreamers, and at worst, at his additional hypothesis, is to the many scientific hypotheses present, past, and future, some exploded, others still lingering. It is not in any sense worse than many of the so-called scientific theories, and it is in every case more philosophical and probable. The view of the abundant comments and explanations required, the reference of the footnotes are given in usual ways, while the sentences to be commanded upon the mark with figures. Additional matters will be found in the chapters on symbolism forming part 2, as well as part 3. These being often more full of information than the text. So guys, next time, I'm going to read part 1, Cosmic Evolution. 7 stanzas translated with commentaries. The Secret Book of Dazan. So I know that was a lot, and it was very heavy. There's a lot of words I couldn't pronounce or say, or I butchered them and did the best that I could without trying to be disrespectful, but my goodness. Now I understand why a lot of people don't read this book, because it is overwhelming, but that's okay. We're going to get through it. I'm going to get through it. But there's a lot of good juicy stuff in this book, and I'm going to push through. I hope you continue pushing through with me and bearing in mind, not easy at all. But like most works that is being ripped apart from several different languages, we just have to go with the flow. So with that, sending each and every one of you love and light. I hope everybody has an amazing day, and I will hopefully see you on the next one. Don't be discouraged. We're going to get through this. Part 1, Cosmic Evolution, should sound Way better than what I just read. Promise. See you in the next one, guys. Bye.